Hi readers, welcome back to For the Love of Reading with me, Justin. Last night I was watching the Super Bowl, an American football game, and loving the game and enjoying the sports, but I really enjoyed the commercials in between too. There were lots of fun, there were some silly ones, there were some sad ones, but the ones that I was most excited about were the superhero commercials. There are a couple new movies coming out, and I really enjoy superhero movies. I like to think, what if I had those superpowers? What would I do? How would I respond? And I really just enjoy superhero movies. Well, today's book, Mike Fink, is a different kind of superhero story. It's called A Tall Tale. And long ago in the United States, they would tell stories about different heroes, really, that almost had superpowers. And today's book, Mike Fink, is about one of those heroes. I'm excited because today was the very first day that I read this book. It's a new superhero for me. It's a new tall tale. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. We'll see together in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey readers, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends and family. And now, Mike Fink, A Tall Tale, retold and illustrated by Stephen Kellogg. Mike was born not far from the Allegheny Mountains. Right from the start, it was clear that he was destined for a life of action. He hated being shut up indoors, and so, when he was only 2 days old, he ran away from home. There were rumors that Mike had joined a troupe of acrobatic frogs that traveled from pond to pond. Mike's grandfather came to fetch him. "The whole town's talking about a grandson of mine who's been hanging out with a gang of rowdy frogs," he thundered. "From now on, you'll stay home and behave like a normal infant." Once again, Mike rebelled furiously against being confined indoors. He leapt up and down on the bed with such force that he catapulted through the roof. On the next leap, Mike rocketed high enough to see the vast network of rivers to the west. There he spotted the keelboats and heard the crew's hearty songs. Mike plummeted back into the house singing, "I'm going to be a keelboatman, cock-a-doodle-doo." Once again, Mike set off a family uproar. "Keelboatmen are ruffians, rowdies, and riff-raff," wailed his grandmother. "This new outrage will disgrace the family name forever." Mike's mother decided then and there that her son would be much happier if she raised him on the frontier. So the next morning, they joined a wagon train heading west. Mike loved the freedom of wilderness life. However, the sudden death of their ox threw his mother into despair. "How will we clear the land?" she cried. "How will we plow?" "Cheer up, Mama," said Mike. "I can handle those chores." And he did. But Mike never stopped dreaming of becoming a keelboatman. He had heard that wrestling was their favorite sport, and it was also his. He was not tall for his age, but he was sturdy and quick. Even when he wrestled boys much bigger and older than himself, he usually came out on top. Mike also showed an early talent for riflery. He called the family gun Bang-All, and he soon became such a crackerjack marksman that he could shoot the shell off an egg. Along about the time he turned 16, he entered a local shooting match. Each entrant had 3 chances to score. Mike hit the bullseye on his first try, but his next 2 attempts left the target unmarked. "One lucky hit and 2 wild shots put you out of the running," chuckled the scorekeeper. But Mike got the last laugh when he showed him all 3 bullets lined up behind the bullseye as neatly as peas in a pod. Mike's skill with a rifle landed him a job as a scout, but he was still drawn westward by the memory of those great rivers. Finally, Mike found himself face to face with Jack Carpenter, the king of the keelboatmen. "Howdy," said Mike. "I'm looking for a job." "This river cracks pipsqueaks like peanuts," said Carpenter. "Come back when you're 10 feet taller, and then we'll find out if you're strong enough to pull your share of the load." "I might be short," said Mike, "but I'm strong, and I'd like a chance to prove it." "I'm stronger than a buffalo stampede and meaner than a rattlesnake with a bellyache," snarled Carpenter. "If you can lick me, the job is yours. And so is this red feather." "You've got yourself a deal," cried Mike. "Cock-a-doodle-doo, let's wrestle." Carpenter charged forward like a bull. Then he hurled Mike hundreds of miles into the heart of the Rocky Mountains. "Well, that set me back a bit," admitted Mike. "But I'm determined to be a keelboatman." He decided to get in shape by wrestling with the grizzlies. At first, those bears rolled him onto his back before he could say Jack Carpenter. But Mike kept trying, and little by little, his strength increased until he was able to hold his own. Finally, he decided to test himself by challenging Big Bart, the heavyweight champion of the Rockies. When Mike came out on top, he knew he was ready for that keelboat job. He sprinted across the Great Plains and found Jack Carpenter. "Cock-a-doodle-doo, I'm back for round 2. Let's wrestle," hollered Mike. Again, Carpenter charged like a bull, but this time Mike met him head on. They wrestled up and down the riverbanks for several weeks, kicking up tidal waves and toppling trees. Finally, Carpenter found himself locked helplessly in a Rocky Mountain grizzly bear hug. "I'm licked," he gasped. After the orneriness had been squeezed out of Jack Carpenter, he became downright agreeable. With Carpenter's help, Mike got the hang of navigating so quickly that the crew voted to make him captain. They sang and danced and celebrated all afternoon, while the boat drifted lazily down the river toward New Orleans. Heading upriver was a different story. The boat had to be pulled and pushed continually to prevent the powerful current from sweeping it backward. The men forged through rapids and up waterfalls, pausing occasionally to tangle with the man-eating alligators and enormous snapping turtles that lay in wait for them. Whenever rival keelboats met, there were races on the water and games and sports on land. Men lined up by the dozens to try and win Mike's feather, but no one got the best of him. His hat began to look like a bonfire, and they called him the king of the keelboatmen. Mike loved all the rough and tumble excitement, but he also loved the times when the river was silent and still. He thought that his life as a keelboatman was just about perfect, and he hoped it would never end. But then one morning, Mike saw dark clouds on the horizon. He was told that these were steamboats and that they were being sent to take over the river trade. Mike hated the shriek of their whistles and the clatter of their paddle wheels. He hated the foul-smelling smoke that fogged the river as they churned past him. Faster and larger steamboats kept arriving. They created traffic jams at the major ports that had made it impossible for Mike and the other keelboat captains to unload their cargo. A showdown was sparked when a steamboat skippered by Hilton P. Blathersby shoved Mike's keelboat away from the dock. This garbage scow's blocking river traffic and should be sunk, hollered Blathersby. I'm king of the keelboatmen, roared Mike. I'll fight for this dock. I'll fight for this river. All hands prepare for naval combat, bellowed Blathersby. With whistles blowing, bells clanging, and smokestacks belching, the powerful steamboat charged forward like a rogue elephant. For a moment, Mike managed to raise the prow of his monstrous opponent, forcing its stern under the water. But then its weight overwhelmed him, and Mike and his keelboat were gone. A second later, the cold water that had rushed into the steamboat's red-hot boilers set off an enormous explosion. One of the few survivors was Captain Blathersby. He spotted Mike's hat from his lifeboat and ordered his men to row closer so he could collect the feathers. After all, he said, now I'm king of the keelboatmen and king of the river. Blathersby was astonished to find Mike underneath his hat. Cock-a-doodle-doo, I'm back for round 2. Let's wrestle, he cried. Some say that Blathersby was thrown all the way to grizzly bear country, but no one knows for sure. As for Mike Fink, he still cheered from one end of the river to the other as the undefeated king of the keelboatmen.
I don't know about you, but I wish that I was strong enough to wrestle a grizzly bear or jump so high into the sky that I could see far, far away from me. That would be really cool to have those superpowers like Mike Fink. Well, if you like that book, I would recommend Pecos Bill or Paul Bunyan or Annie Oakley or my favorite, John Henry. I love the story of John Henry. Go out and check those books out to hear more stories about old-time tall tales or superheroes, if you want to call them that. Well, right now, I'm going to go reread, because I love to reread a good book, I'm going to go reread the story of John Henry. I hope that you go out and find a great book too. We'll sit down and enjoy for the love of reading. See you next time.